Hello and welcome. It's 4 PM. My name is Adam Burt and you are watching the Etch Play weekly live show, the best place on the internet to get all the latest video game industry news, watch some gameplay and get some expert discussion around the games industry, especially in the world of marketing. Here's what's coming up on today's show. We've got a jam-packed show for you as usual. We've got all the latest news, as I just said. We're going to be talking about Microsoft and Dynasty Warriors and other such things. And some Warhammer, if you're a fantasy fan, stick around for that gameplay. And then later on, Ben Joy will be joining the show to talk about life after esports, so do not touch that dial. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here as a guest of sorts. Welcome back,
for you
Adam.
to not be running the show because I'm back, so I can run the show myself. I don't need you anymore, Dan, but I'm glad you're here because I like having company.
It can be done right this time.
Yeah, if you want something doing right, you've got to do it yourself. Let's get some shout-outs going for people in the chat. Who have we got today? We've got Miles. Thanks for tuning in, Miles. We've got Ben Gammon. Hello, Ben. Stick around, actually. Ben Gammon's featuring in that video later on. And we've got Tony. Thanks for tuning in, Tony. Thank you for always giving us your support. And yeah, you can see the schedule there, so let's get into it, I guess. Shall we try and start with some news? Are you ready for this, Dan?
Let's give it a go.
Wow, okay, here we go. First button press of the show coming up. Will I do it successfully? Nailed it. Let's talk news. First up in the news section, the EU Commission has approved Microsoft's Zenimax takeover. And by Zenimax, I of course mean Bethesda and friends. Microsoft's deal has been approved by the EU without conditions, as it does not raise serious doubts as to its compatibility with the common market. The acquisition required EU approval before Microsoft could finalise the deal and bring games to Game Pass and, future exclusive titles potentially. We'll talk about more in a second. It was already approved by the US Securities and Exchange Commission last week, so this is now clear, plain sailing through to the end of the deal. And Microsoft celebrated the news and teased that many games are coming soon to Game Pass as a result, including, and this is the key quote, including some titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC players. Dan, how do you take this? How do you read that?
It's a very hot statement for them to put out there. Does that mean timed exclusive? Does that mean completely exclusive? What games is it going to be? Is there some beloved brands that we're used to seeing on all sorts of platforms that are going to get restricted? As I'm a Xbox fan. I'm a big fan of Bethesda's project, so I'm excited to see what comes of that. But that's a intriguing statement.
Yeah, and what do you think? If you're a betting man, do you think the next Elder Scrolls comes to PlayStation 5?
I can't see them. Maybe timed exclusive. I can't see them withholding existing beloved IPs from. I don't know. But I'd be surprised if they do.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
I think Starfield, I would definitely expect, that's the new IP that they're launching, I'd expect that to now be exclusive. But I think it's tricky when you get to those established franchises, your Elder Scrolls, your Fallouts. I think there's already been some inclination from some of the developers involved that Elder Scrolls Online, at least, is going to continue to be supported multi-platform. So strange things have happened. I mean, Microsoft literally launching Deathloop on PlayStation 5 exclusively this summer. So who knows? But I think they'll definitely be keen to make sure that Game Pass is the primary and the best place to play these titles. Next up in the news, the developer of Zombies Run, which is a popular running app with gamification apps around running away from zombies. The developer is called Six to Start, and they've been acquired by OliveX. The deal is worth $9.5 million US, and the fitness firm OliveX will pay $6.65 million of that upfront, with the rest tied to the UK-based firm's performance and seeing how they do with their next titles, which I'm imagining are imminently coming to iOS and Android some point near you. You talked about acquisitions on the show last week. Do you think this is a good deal, Dan? Yeah,
I think this is an interesting one, and it's also a nice kind of, expansion on this is a real. This draws the line between games and apps quite nicely. This is very much this is a fitness app, but as you mentioned, there's a lot of gamifications. It's a very fun environment. There's narrative, there's world building. There's a lot of game development has gone into this app. So with the idea of those kinds of gamified apps also coming into this whole acquisition conversation. Could be a lot more of this sort of thing to get more. I think we'll see more game elements coming into more apps, and then we'll see this kind of spread of acquisitions and perhaps games giants buying more app type organizations and vice versa as well. So yeah, very exciting. Well done. Congrats to them.
Congratulations, everyone at 6 to Start, on your new owners. I'm about to test Twitch's bandwidth. I'm going to play some potentially 4K video here. Japan's Super Nintendo World is now set to open on March 18th. It's based in Osaka, the Universal Studios there, and its opening was delayed several times due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the US Super Nintendo World, which is basically the same thing but American, is set to open at Universal's upcoming Epic Universe Park in Orlando, Florida, and that has been delayed to 2025. It was initially scheduled to open in 2023. Dan, are you excited about Super Nintendo World? Are you going to take the play team, as we keep asking you to every week?
Yeah, we keep asking. One of these days, I'll surprise you all, maybe. I think it'd be brilliant. I'd definitely be keen to check that out at some point.
If you were going to make a theme park based on a video game franchise, what franchise would you do it based on?
My immediate thought goes to Sonic the Hedgehog, but that just sounds like some terrifying opportunities for rides and speed and loops.
I don't want to meet the people who are queuing up at the Sonic the Hedgehog park. Not my vibe. Sorry to the Sonic fans out there in the chat, including Etch Play's own Benji.
I guess it's also a bit, maybe that's a bit Sega, not Nintendo, isn't it? I don't know. They've kind of got a close relationship now. But,
there could be a Sonic ride there. You never know. I mean, he's got the right vibe for a roller coaster, like a really fast roller coaster. Next up, in the world of movie trailers, we talked a bit about adaptations and film adaptions, TV adaptions recently on the show. The next one coming is the adaptation of Dynasty Warriors, which is a film opening in Hong Kong, China, and it's arriving at the end of April, and you can see a little bit in the background now. Dan, you admitted during the show setup rather, that you've never heard of Dynasty Warriors before. You somehow were asleep during the early 2000s. So you won't be buying a ticket for Dynasty Warriors the movie?
You just completely shattered all my gaming credibility with that tiny smidgen of gaming credibility. It's not a brand that I'm super familiar with. But as we established, it's a much beloved, long-term, highly successful brand that I should be more aware of.
And next up, some sad news for you. V1 Interactive is shutting down, closing its doors. Founded by Halo veteran Marcus Leto, he was one of the co-creators of the original Halo. They released Disintegration last year, which you've got some footage of in the background now, and it hasn't performed as well as they wanted, or I guess needed, in order to continue to thrive. Leto tweeted that the studio had been transparent with its employees about the state of things for months, and will be giving them ample time to search for new jobs while being supported by the studio. Obviously, it's never good to see a studio go under. No one wants to see that, and there's a lot of it going around, unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic and other things. And just general market performance, I guess. It's an increasingly competitive landscape out there. It's difficult for games to stand out.
I think it's an interesting topic for us to cover, maybe in a future kind of deep dive, this idea that you get these heroes of AAA setting up their own studios with their own obviously creative vision and obviously a wealth of expertise, but so often it ends in this kind of familiar story. And I just think there's something about the kind of the two avenues you have to creating a game studio is you have the kind of indie, start from nothing, build it up from scratch, that's one avenue. And then you have the AAA, I've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years within this huge organization, and and all of the perhaps creative restrictions and existing procedures and processes that you have to work within. So you want to break out from that, but they're both very different avenues to building a game studio or building a business, and it'd be really interesting just to compare and contrast those two different approaches. But clearly this is another example of one that's not worked out as they planned, which is always a shame to see.
Yes, it is. You'll be glad to know, Dan, that I've apparently fluffed up the audio during one of those segments, and everyone got treated to some very loud trailer audio that they shouldn't have been hearing.
Oh no!
I know, there's always one. Next up in the news, though, loot boxes are expected to generate $20.3 billion in revenue. This is in US dollars. By 2025, a new report by Juniper Research has found this. The company adds that over 230 million gamers, which is approximately 5% of players, are expected to purchase loot boxes in 2025, with mobile gaming content making up the majority of these transactions. They also provided some geographical stats, with Far East and China representing the majority of those sales. Do you like a loot box, Dan? How much have you spent on loot boxes in your life? I bet not very much. You're too frugal for this, aren't you?
But I've dealt on mobile. I think CSR2, I've played with it, and Fallout Shelter got convinced there. I mean, it is fun, but yeah, it's such a controversial topic. There's a lot of different angles on it. People think it's a game specific thing, but really, did you ever buy a pack of Panini stickers trying to get the shiny ones, or is it? There's been all sorts of variations of this mechanic over the years in various forms of media and play. Yeah, I don't know. It clearly works from a commercial perspective. But yeah, it raises a lot of questions, and the closer it veers to gambling, draws more and more interrogation.
Elsewhere, the Xbox browser now has the ability to stream games from Steam and Stadia. So this is a strange story. Xbox testers in the Alpha Skip-Ahead group, which is a group of beta testers, can now access the updated Microsoft Edge web browser on Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles. And thanks to the improved compatibility support from Chromium, which Edge is now based on, the browser will run web browser apps such as those for Google Stadia and GeForce Now, which means that Xbox players can stream many of their Steam games to their console, including PlayStation console exclusive Death Stranding and ray tracing enabled versions of Cyberpunk 2077, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and more. That's one way around platform exclusivity. Give them a browser, let them stream it.
I mean, I really think the ultimate end game we're going to end up in is this is how you will, the web will be the delivery mechanism of games, and this is kind of, I guess, just another step towards that vision. And yeah, we're creating amazing things in web-based technologies, and you'd almost have to be taking a backward step to prevent that. Which I'm sure certain manufacturers, channels, companies will make, but it's feels like an inevitable destination that you will just wherever you can access the web, you can start to access your games library. Yeah,
the web's brilliant. We love it. More stuff on the web.
That's what we like.
We do. And lastly, in the news this week, we always like to end on a Games for Good story where we talk about a feel good or very positive story from the world of games. And this week, I wanted to highlight the ESA putting $1 million towards a multi-year initiative to support the educational efforts of an organisation called Black Girls Code. The plans will support educational and mentoring programs for girls and young women who have taken an interest in technology, and basically boosting Black Girl Code's mission to teach coding and tech skills to young women across the world, but especially in America. So props to the ESA for doing that, and always like to see more people being encouraged to get into STEM, which obviously also leads to more diverse and interesting and fruitful games industry for everyone to enjoy as well. So well done to Black Girls Code, and congratulations on your new grant money. We are going to throw to a pre-recorded segment. They recently announced some new DLC for Warhammer Vermintide 2, and we're going to check out some of the stuff that's currently out there. I roped in Ben Gammon from the play team to have a chat with me about the game, and this is some gameplay that we captured. I'll be back after this with Ben Joy to talk about life after esports. I don't go anywhere. Dan, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And we will see you very shortly. Back soon. I can't wave and click at the same time. Hello and welcome to another Etch Play video. My name is Adam Burt and I'm joined by Ben Gammon. Say hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben. Oh, you did that thing.
Yeah, you did that thing, you sneaky. Dad jokes aplenty on this week's video. This is Vermintide 2. As you can see, straight into it, fighting a spawn of chaos. This is an online multiplayer. I don't know what you call it, I guess, and it's like an adventure where you mostly use melee weapons, although you'll see I'm using a gun here because I don't want to get near this guy. And it's set in the fantasy world of Warhammer. So if you like painting figurines, you probably already know what this is. It's actually, tell you what it's like. It's like Left 4 Dead. You ever play Left 4 Dead?
No.
So Left 4 Dead, it's like 4-player multiplayer missions, and this has the same kind of structure as that. So you team up with people online. Here I'm teamed up with a bunch of people on the internet. You can see their names on the left-hand side, and you're kind of attacked by waves of enemies usually. And this is just this intro here is just one big enemy, but you'll see we're about to start tackling some bigger waves of enemies as we get towards the end of this mission.
He was a good-looking fellow, that first one.
All the different people you can play as have different kind of weapons and abilities, and I'm going to show you actually this mission with 2 different abilities. So this is, I think I'm playing as the Witch Hunter here, who's got a kind of a sword focus, which is why I've got my sweet sword out with a skull on it. And we're going to try and disrupt this magic ritual, which, you know, I don't know what's going on here in the story, to be honest. I know there's lots of rat men. The rat men attack you all the time. There's wizards. Warhammer fans in the chat, feel free to criticise me for my lack of Warhammer knowledge, but I just like slashing and beating things up. That's like some sort of magic Gatling gun that guy's got down there.
So yeah, there's a lot of blood.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer for this, and some of the kills in it were brutal.
Yeah, you definitely get some brutal abilities. In fact, later in the video I'll switch back to the hammer, and you can see like these guys, their heads just pop when you hit them with the hammer. The sword's kind of a faster weapon. Oh, nice little stab. You can really kind of just cut up large groups of people with the sword, just swinging it constantly, which is very fun. Are you a fantasy fan? Do you like... you're not a Warhammer fan, are you? But do you like Lord of the Rings? Do you like Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, big fan of Lord of the Rings. Don't really play Dungeons and Dragons, but...
This game is probably the best example in a while of like that kind of Lord of the Rings feeling. You know, like a Helm's Deep or like a battle in the third one where there's just loads of people and you're like, I've just got to kill all these people.
Yeah.
You definitely get some, it's not in the video actually, but there's some missions actually like on the castle walls where there's just things coming up over the walls and stuff, which very reminiscent of that kind of vibe, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I played Shadow of Mordor, and
yeah,
some of those where you'd accidentally walk into like a patrol or just go into like a keep or something like that, and just end up having to fight 50 or 60 like orcs or whatever. It was hectic. That dwarf in the middle who's fighting in the liquid, it's like waist height for him. Hope he doesn't trip up, or he might go under.
So what you get at the end of every mission as well is this kind of escape. We have to get to the Bridge of Shadows, which is this portal, and that's always a lot of fun because you basically have to make a run for it, and usually you get attacked by things on the way. Although I think we're going to be okay here. This one's pretty close. So let's see that again, but with the hammer. It's the exact same mission, but I've switched to the dwarf. So now I will be the one standing at waist height in the water. Some medical supplies and bombs. You kind of find stuff around. You find ammo for weapons and things as well.
I want to see lots of heads pop.
Oh, you're going to see some heads pop.
You've hyped it up.
Welcome to head popping in Vermintide 2. This game's available on Game Pass, which is what we're playing on here. It's actually running on Xbox Series X. Yeah, runs good. You get lots of enemies on screen.
Quiet, Adam. Too quiet.
It is too quiet. There they come.
Oof, nice.
There you go. There's a head pop.
Ooh.
So this is my game where I'm like, you know, if you just like, you had a really stressful day, and you're like, I just want to beat the crap out of an army full of ratmen. This is the game for you. We should get an Etch play group going in this. We should do some like 4-player Etch play. Fantasy adventures. I reckon we could get Joe on board for this. He would like that.
Who would be the dwarf?
Probably Benjoy.
What? Why? What's the thinking?
He's got a big beard.
I was basing the decision on height, but I completely forgot that actually.
So you can see, you've got a brief glimpse of her there, like the different classes. Like one of them's like an enchantress, so she has like magic basically, like has like a fire staff. So you definitely get a good weapon variety, and you get all the sorts of classic multiplayer stuff where you unlock loot crates for completing missions, and they contain new weapons, upgrades for weapons. You can make yourself pretty powerful. And there is a story. Like I say, I don't really understand the story. Whenever I jump into it, it tells me roughly what I'm doing. It's like, you're going to disrupt this magic ritual, or you're going to go and blow up this castle, or you're going to go and, you know, kill a troll. Do like a good shotgun as well. So Fat Shark, the developers of this game, they're actually working on a game for the Xbox Series X and PC called Darktide, which is similar to this, but rather than fantasy, it's sci-fi inspired. Oh, this rat's got my friend in a noose. It's fashion. So I'm excited to see that, because I think, yeah, like taking this and applying it to like a science fiction universe could be really exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of the Warhammer 40k vibes, I think. Okay, so here's an escape to the Bridge of Shadows. You can see how this goes. Oh, somebody's down. I'm going to do the heroic thing. I'm going to go back and save them, because that's just
they did all that fight and they fell off the ledge.
It's the kind of nice guy that I am. You know, I could have just left them, but I'm coming back to save them. The real message of this video, besides head popping, is that Adam Burt is a hero.
Adam Medal of Honor Burt. Shoot
that guy.
I like how fit these warriors are. Like,
oh yeah, they just constantly
just throwing that hammer around. Like,
they never get
like
tired.
10 minutes, never out of breath.
This is the Bridge of Shadows, so the mission ends when everyone steps inside it, basically. But we couldn't resist setting these guys on fire one last time.
Oh, so you wouldn't have been able to complete it with that person?
I think
down
it does
anyway.
time out eventually. So it's like, I think you'd be able to leave them behind. But yeah, mission complete. This is Vermintide 2. Thanks for joining me, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you on a future video. Bye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome back. You're watching the Etch Play weekly live show. I'm your host, Adam Burt, and I'm joined for the final part of the show by Ben Joy. Ben, welcome.
Hello, stranger. How are you?
I know, it's been such a long time since I've got to bust your balls in public on the live show.
It's good to have you back. I look forward to that.
It's good to be back. And you're here to talk about all things esports, or specifically life after esports, and about, I guess, the career paths for people who have made it big in the world of electronic sport. Why don't you get us rolling? Kick us off. What have you brought for us today?
Yep. So I want to talk about this week. Esports is such a huge part of the gaming world. I mean, it's estimated to be worth 1.79 billion by the end of next year. I think it's like 1.1 billion this year is what it's expected to be. So it's a huge industry, and obviously along with it comes players and teams, because without them, esports doesn't happen. But we want to talk about what the options are after esports, because it's a very short career. It's estimated that the average retirement age of an esports player is 25. So unfortunately, me and you, we can't even get into it. We've already missed the boat. We're long gone. you more than me, but
wow.
We've missed the boat. So yeah, it's a very short career. So looking at the options that you have once you finish playing, because obviously, as much as everyone would love to retire at 25, it's not necessarily, you're not retiring to enjoy your retirement period. There's still, you've still got a lot of life to lead, and that needs money. So you've got to work.
I really hope that your research isn't just like get a job, get a job at McDonald's.
This is going to be awkward.
Well,
because I'm finished. That's all I brought.
Well,
once you finish, get a job. Thanks. See you next week, folks. No,
I guess a good place to start is comparison to real sport, like with a traditional sport, one that you play outdoors and everything. A lot of players also have a short career on the field, but then they maybe transition to coaching or punditry or commentating. Is that something that a lot of esports players do as well?
Yeah, so exactly. You've kind of got two routes to go. Three, and typically the third is not so much. So the third route is, I'll say the first, because the first I'm saying is like you can sail off into the sunset and you can enjoy your retirement if you're one of the top players and you've earned like the top amount you can. I think the top player in the world, I wrote down his name. No tail. Like he's up around 7 million earned. So if you're sensible with your money, you could retire on 7 million. Like you could live the rest of your life on that. The second option is, as you say, is to remain within esports, get a job within esports, and the third option is to go get a job outside of the sport. And it really depends on where you are, like how successful you are. So if you're one of the big name players and you earn a lot of money, you're going to have a bit more credence behind you, so you can typically stay in the sport. And as you said, there's tons of different jobs you can take to remain in esports. You listed off a few which were relevant for esports. You could become a commentator, which is called a shoutcaster in esports. You could become a player manager. You could become an agent for a player, because obviously you've had an agent. You can pick up the ropes. You probably need to do some training, but you can do that. You can become an analyst. That's quite a popular one for when you get out. Obviously, these esports teams, like they operate as very similar to traditional sports. You could become a coach, for example. So it's easy to think from the outside, just playing games is, there's not that much to it. But really, it's really intensive career as a player, and they train not just on the games, but physically. They have mind coaches and analysts who are reviewing the games that you've played, looking for areas you can improve, and so there's avenues there. You could move kind of esports adjacent and become maybe like a journalist, reporting on it. And yes, there's plenty of options. Another game adjacent is you could look to move into like the games industry, maybe outside the esports industry, but the games industry, maybe try and become a tester, or maybe like a social media correspondent, that's not the right word. like a community manager for like a games company, or even like a games team.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there any examples, I'm not sure if you have any listed, so don't feel the pressure, but like do esports successes and esports stars, do they ever consult with games companies? So games companies will pay them to be like, we want our next game to be an esport. Like it needs to have that quality about it in terms of it being viable as a sport. Is there gigs in kind of consultancy in the games industry, do you think, that people could step into?
I haven't come across any examples of that, but I think absolutely, and I would be surprised if that doesn't happen, because it would be silly not to. These players have such huge influence on the game. They bring so many eyes. Now esports has a huge audience, so it makes sense that there's some conversation going on between the esports players and the teams. Maybe not necessarily the players, but like the team managers and that kind of thing, talking to the games developers, be it the game that they're playing, look to improve it, or as you say, potentially new games where someone wants to get into the esports arena and will need some advice on how to do that. Another avenue which we didn't touch on, which is adjacent, is moving into the world of streaming. You often see some of the big name players move into the world of streaming, like us, for example. Probably one of the biggest is Shroud. Is he made the move from being an esports athlete into being a very successful streamer. But just something to note on that, it seems like it's maybe quite a sensible step and quite a natural step to go from being an esports athlete into streaming, because esports, you're playing games and it's being streamed and people are watching it, and but it's not quite as simple as that. Like if you're going to be a streamer, people aren't coming to just watch you play a game. You're going for entertainment. You have to be charismatic and be entertaining, be an entertainer. Which way, when you're playing on an esports team, your focus is to be playing the game and playing at a high level. You're not, I'm sure there are people who are characters and will play up to audiences in the crowd, but if someone's coming to watch you stream for an hour, 2 hours, like you have to be engaging, and it's a very different skill set. So I don't think it's necessarily for everyone, and it's maybe not quite such a simple step that you make.
Yeah. Do you have any success stories for us? Do you have any people who have retired and then gone on to great things? You mentioned Shroud. Are there others out there that we think we want to highlight?
One which I found particularly interesting, and I'm probably going to say it wrong. I think it's Hai. It's sort of HAI. When they retired 4 years later, they actually became the CEO of Team Radiance. So they took pretty much the highest position you could at that team. So that just kind of shows you the level you can go to. And as I listed off all the jobs before, like there's tons of avenues you can go. Like esports is huge. It's not like be a player or bust. Like there's coaching, there's managing, there's organizing events, commentating, being an agent, being a journalist. There's all kind of things to do. But that's the bright side. If you can stay in the industry, and the problem is, because there is so many players, and there are a lot of jobs, but there's only so many jobs to go around. As you see with your more traditional sports, not every ex-player is a pundit or gets a manager job or is working in a back room. Like you've got to go off and move somewhere else. And even though we're talking big money for the top players, like you said, 7 million for No Tail, and looking, I got my numbers from, I wrote it down where I got the source, and I've lost where I wrote it on my esportsearnings.com is where I got this from. Like the top earners, you have to get down to the 95th top earner before you find someone who's not earned $1 million. So there's a lot of people earning a lot of money, but also there's a lot of people not earning enough, as I say, to retire on. I found an article which kind of broke down what the average income for your average player would be in a year, and it's I say only, but it's only $74,000 US dollars. So that's more than enough to live on, but that's not enough to retire on. You couldn't finish at 25 years old, 26 years old, and have enough money to retire on. So it's just the way they broke that down was, on average, a team salary might be $4,000 a month to $48,000 a year, an average prize winning of about $8,300, and then if you do some streaming on the side as well, maybe earning $1,500 a month off that as well. So that's kind of where the 74,000 comes from. But as I say, that's not enough to retire on. And the problem that you sometimes find is, because it's such a young man's game, to sound like an old man, but people get into this at a very young age, and often they'll drop education or leave education, not go into higher education, because they need to put all their focus into being an esports athlete. So then when you finish at 25, if you're not able to stay in the industry within esports, kind of you've not got a lot of qualifications necessarily to fall back on if you've dropped education and you've been solely playing as an esports athlete for maybe 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Your competitiveness in the job market is not to the level of someone who's been working for, say, 6-7 years. So that can be a real problem. And there's a lot of towards the bottom end, there can be a lot of players who are either living off part-time jobs or seeking employment. They haven't found a job yet. So there's a couple of initiatives that have been set up to try and avoid that problem, because it is esports is it's not kind of this thing that just runs and it's nice to be involved. Like it's $1 billion industry. So kind of the people are taking note of this and looking at how they can improve that and reduce that problem. So in South Korea, Genji, which is an esports company, partnered with the Elite Education Group. They launched the imaginatively named the Genji Elite Sports Academy. And what that is they would teach students in English, so that they were learning to speak multiple different languages. At the end, you would get an American high school diploma. They would offer advice on college applications, guidance, give you help with testing, like testing tips and stuff like that, and help you try and get into either get into a college on an esports scholarship, because they do exist. They come in more. They're not as rare as they used to be. They're still not massively prevalent, but it's a thing that exists. Or just help you get into college and progress that way, because esports is a short career. Riot did something similar. They set up a program doing a very similar thing. I don't think they had the accredited qualification, but they were helping people develop their interview skills and helping them with like how to do branding and how to do marketing and PR and how to do media jobs, because they recognize that it is a short career. Not everyone's going to remain in the industry, and it can be a tough place to be if you're struggling to find a job, you haven't got the qualifications to fall back on. So there's it's easy to be like, so many jobs in esports, everyone's going to get it, everyone's going to be the next Shroud and earn millions by streaming. And if you're great, I mean, a lot of people can earn more from streaming than being an esports player. But yeah, there is the other end of the scale that there is a darker side to it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing that investigative reporting, and we appreciate your insight on the show as ever. Thanks for joining me, Ben.
Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it. Good to see you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. And thank you as well, you at home. That's you. I'm literally talking to you, the person watching, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you like the show, get in touch and let us know. Say hi in chat. And if you don't already, follow us. There's a little purple button down in the corner somewhere over there. And if you press that, you get notified every time we go live. You can also find catch-ups of all of our episodes over on YouTube, as well as here on Twitch. And we'll be back next week at the same time, 4 p.m. every week, like clockwork. Thanks very much, and we will see you again next time. Bye.